Here's a few names the Cowboys can consider trading for. Okay, now not all of these are going to be like huge, big name home run guys. Now a few of them will be, but we got to keep in mind the perspective of the Cowboys here, right?
But that's where the sport has gone. It's all about the home runs now.
Well, maybe you're right, but that's a different sport. That's
I'm not trying to hit a single, man.
No, it's not all about, just get on base anymore. It's all about we're going to hit the home run.
I'm trying to go yard.
Just bleeping football we're talking
My
about.
launch
here.
angle is insane for a reason.
So high. LJ Collier, formerly of TCU, and he has had a meh start to his career with the Seattle Seahawks. He's just 26, though, and from a height-weight profile, he's everything I believe Dan Quinn wants in a defensive lineman. 6'3", 291 pounds. Now, he was the Seahawks' first-round pick, 29th overall back in 2019. And as I mentioned, he has not quite lived up to expectations in his 3 years with the team. He hasn't played a ton. He's only played about 20% of their defensive snaps as of last year. And he's only signed through 2022. So that means essentially you can maybe just make a trade for cheap, and you get him in a contract year, where how many times do we see guys step up and ball out all of a sudden in a contract year? And if this is a Cowboys team that does decide to move on from DeMarcus Lawrence, this is a kind of potentially low-cost but high upside trade and name that the Cowboys could attempt to pursue via trade. Local product at a TCU. They scouted him heavily coming out. And while he might not get you overly, woo, this is huge and get you excited, but the talent's there, the upside's there, and the fact that he's going into a contract year has a ton to prove. Maybe with this scheme, with Dan Quinn and this system, you're able to finally get that potential that he possesses.
It's another one of these 3-tech penetrator kind of guys. I'm open to it. I would be. I'd be open to it. Yeah,
day 3 pick.
Yeah, wouldn't be anything crazy there. I mean, are you kind of at a place now though where you'd prefer getting the 1-tech big bodied guy? Not to say you get Collier and that means you're not getting the big body guy, but like generally speaking, the 1-tech run stuffer's more what you're interested in at this point than the 3-tech, or is it kind of I'll take what I can get at this point?
Well, I think he could also kick outside and possibly play end for you. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Okay.
But yes, I'm with you in terms of what they need in the interior line. I think they have a bunch of 3-techs. They need that 1-tech, 100%. But I'm kind of envisioning Collier maybe playing defensive end. But he does have that versatility to also kick inside, which is nice. And we saw Tank do that at times last year as well. So that position versatility is interesting. Another name, Chase Winovich from the New England Patriots.
Yes.
Also 26.
Man, what did happen to him? Because I felt like he came out of the gate strong his rookie year.
He did. So last year, I think what happened was they had all those opt-outs 2 years ago. So he got a ton more playing time due to some of the opt-outs that they had. And then last year, he didn't end up playing a ton in 2021. So he could find himself on the trade block as well after he's been buried on the Patriots depth chart. Now, he may not give you the same appealing position flex as LJ Collier. He's 6'3", 250, but he would provide the Cowboys with some much-needed depth at defensive ends, and he's a relentless player, high-motor dude that we've often talked about coming out of Michigan.
Which obviously means he's Caucasian.
Yes, he is.
He's got great hair.
He does have great hair.
I mean, he would immediately step in, right, and have the best hair on the team. Am I forgetting anybody?
Well, Simi Fehoko does have great hair.
I do not want to disrespect our best friend like that. I think Simi would give him a good run for his money.
On the defensive side of the football, I think you're right.
Definitely on the defense. Best hair on the defense. Because honestly, we don't really have a lot of
No, we had a lot of short hair going.
A lot of short hair, high and tight, just military. We're out here to dominate you. We're not out here to necessarily look pretty. Well, maybe does DeMarcus Lawrence have some hair coming out? Sometimes, depending on how it's styled.
Sometimes,
because he's got some
and Tank can rock a bunch of different looks.
Exactly,
he's versatile in that regard.
But yeah, Chase Winovich, no sacks last year, played in 13 games. I just don't think he's gotten many opportunity. But like 2019, 5.5 sacks, 2020, 5.5 sacks.
We're talking about guys that are not getting to play a ton. Can you take advantage of that? You offer a day 3 pick, and then now you're adding a potential upside player for yourself.
And I'm totally at a place where if the Cowboys did make a move, especially on the defensive side of the ball, for any one of these guys where it's like, hey, you're not really expecting much out of them, but we'll see, especially one of the younger guys, I would immediately just be like, okay, like I feel good about this because one, you're making the trade because like Dan Quinn clearly is like going, I want to go get that guy. It's not even like a free agent that's out there and, hey, this guy's available, let's just go get him.
Sure.
It's, hey, I want to go trade for this guy because I have a vision for him, and I trust Dan Quinn with the vision that he has for any particular player, because whether it's Jaron Kearse, Micah Parsons, you name it, like he's got some guys where he's like, hey, I know what to do with you. Let's go ball out.
Now here's some bigger names. This is a player that I think you and I would both be, oh my gosh, if they could find a way to make a trade here.
Like a Larry Izzo or a Tom Izzo style, oh my gosh, like, my gosh.
Can I interest you in a Dre Greenlaw?
Yes, you can.
A linebacker from the Niners.
Yep.
24, 6 foot, 230, an ascending player heading into 2021 before a groin injury caused him to miss the majority of the year.
He plays like a wrecking ball.
He's incredible. Now, the Niners have given Fred Warner a massive contract extension, so they're paying him a lot of money, which means Greenlaw's future in San Francisco probably doesn't extend past this year. So you could look at a mid-round pick, maybe a 4th, maybe at the most a 3, but that's a guy that you can plug and play immediately, and he's your starter, and he's going to be a badass.
You're talking about you're basically going from, hey, San Francisco, right now, you probably have the best linebacker duo in the sport with Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. And now, okay, you trade Dre Greenlaw to Dallas. Now with Micah Parsons and Greenlaw, now you, Dallas, have the best linebacking core or linebacker duo in the entire league. And then what that does for Dan Quinn in unlocking Micah Parsons at the just the full extent
wherever you want
all the time, because you have a surefire badass at the linebacker spot, and his name's not Micah Parsons. That would be outstanding. I would probably want to dig into the injury history a touch on Greenlaw, knowing that he missed some time this year. I don't know if that's something that's perpetual with him, but I know how much of a beast he is, and a lot of it comes from just because you didn't get to see him play a ton this year, but leading up to that playoff game versus San Francisco. And it's like, okay, who's this guy? He's back now. He's played a little bit. Yes, he's flying around. He's crushing skulls. He blitzes a lot. Like this dude.
And at 24.
Yeah, super young still.
So much upside there.
For
no doubt.
4th round pick, it is a no-brainer.
That's why I threw out a 3rd, because if I'm the Niners, I probably would ask for a 3. I was surprised he's even available, but I guess when you look at their salary cap situation, this offseason they're going to have to pay big money for Debo, and they already paid big money for Fred Warner.
And Kittle and some of these guys.
They're probably not going to be able to retain him.
Well, the only problem, if you're San Francisco, you're thinking to yourself, okay, I can trade him now for a 4th round pick, or I can just have him on my roster this year, which is going to make me have the best linebacking duo in the league. And then if I don't re-sign him, I'm still going to end up getting a 3rd round comp pick for him. But if I trade him this offseason for the draft pick, all it does is allow for me to get the draft pick now instead of having to wait it out.
I guess it would be, you'd have to go to your scouts and say, hey, do we like the depth and the talent in this year's class versus what we're projecting for next year? Do we think we can get a better player in the middle of this year's draft versus next year? And it's tough to say.
Well, it'd be 2 years from now.
You're projecting.
If you keep him on your roster,
exactly.
Yeah.
You're just able to kind of fill that void much sooner than awaiting.
That would be a fun one,
situation.
Man. That'd be a really fun one, because then you don't have to burn a 1st round pick on one of these beast linebackers like some people have talked about for the Cowboys in this upcoming draft, and you can just say, hey, mid-round pick for one of the better linebackers in the league. Yeah, that's a no-brainer for me.
Now, let me go with an offensive lineman, because I think you and I both we need to get this offensive line figured out.
Yeah, priority number 1.
How about Eric McCoy, who I was a big fan of coming out of the draft from Texas A&M a few years ago.
Is he still with the Packers?
Still with the Saints.
The Saints.
Yep. 6'4", 303. He's only 24 years old. He was a 2nd round pick, 48th overall by the Saints. Now, we know they are in a massive amount of cap trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And the Saints could be looking to trade McCoy, which would save them $3 million. And they've got Cesar Ruiz, who is capable of stepping in at his spot along the offensive line. I mean, the Saints did do an excellent job of having a multitude of offensive linemen. They can play a bunch of spots. So they've already kind of got a replacement in mind. Eric McCoy's a bit of a luxury for them. So he's going to want an extension. Again, this is a guy who's got 1 year left on his deal. So the Cowboys would have to look towards maybe extending him, but he is the only player on this list to come anywhere close to living up to draft expectations. He would likely cost more draft capital for the Cowboys than any of the other players. Maybe you're looking at a 2 potentially, but it's an investment where he can play guard or center for you, depending on if you want him to replace Tyler Biadasz. He'd be an upgrade there, or he could start for you at left guard. I mean, it puts you into a situation where you then really are able to go best available player in the draft. And if it's Linderbaum who falls your way, then amazing. We'd have Eric McCoy who can play left guard for us. If it's Kenyon Green, the Texas A&M guard, who's there, great. Let's go ahead and draft him. He's a plug-and-play left guard. We can now have Eric McCoy be an upgraded center for us as well. So I do think that would go a long way, assuming they would have to give him an extension after this year. So he's the one that might be a little more costly, and he's going to be more of a premium pick, but he's a player that is NFL ready. You know he's good, and he's an upgrade along the line.
What do they suggest the trade compensation being for him?
Probably a 2 or a 3.
Okay, that's a no-brainer. That's one I'm absolutely doing. The Saints right now, $75 million over the cap. That'll adjust. They'll do some things, but still, that's a buttload of money. He's only owed $3.4 million this year, and then it would actually save the Saints nearly $3 million by trading him.
Yep.
So that's something that would be
helps both parties.
It helps everybody all the way around. For a second-round pick, I'm doing that, dude. I'm totally doing that.
The last name to consider here, and I'll kick this to you because I know you end up watching a bunch of Miami Dolphin football because of your dad being a Dolphins fan, but Noah Igbinoghene, the corner of the Dolphins.
Yeah, he's been a little bit of a disappointment, I would say, for the Dolphins, especially having had Brian Flores, having had Xavier Howard, Byron Jones. You would think, man, this guy's surrounded by a lot of good defensive minds and things like that, good corners in that room for the Dolphins, and just hasn't totally worked out. He got thrown to the fire a couple of times in some ways that were probably not totally fair, like, hey, go one-on-one with Stephon Diggs for a game against Buffalo and watch Josh Allen just completely undress you for 4 quarters.
That's a tough matchup for him because he's a big corner. He's not necessarily the fastest guy.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, he's an athletic dude and stuff, and he was a guy that I thought was going to be pretty strong coming out, but he's going to need some refinement, and I'm probably not giving anything more than
mid-round pick.
I was going to say late, probably 5 or 6.
Yeah.
There's just nothing to show that I should give more than that at this point.
Be another corner to add depth-wise, but there's some names right there in terms of potential trades. And 817, talk to Brian Broaddus, stop giving away draft capital. Look, the Cowboys aren't going to really do much in free agency. So the trade market's one where, look what the Rams just did. And none of these guys are necessarily first-round picks that you're giving up, but you're giving up mid to late-round picks to get an NFL-ready guy that you know could be good immediately. So I think it's worth a discussion.